Well, hello, everybody, and welcome. Good evening. Sorry, I'm a couple of seconds late. I was trying to get some things posted on the channel here, and but we're here. Hey, great to see y'all. Thank you so much for dropping by. For those of you who are watching this in the replay mode, thank you for watching. We greatly appreciate you. Make sure you leave some comments. I do respond to comments as quickly as I see them, and there will be lots of great questions in the comments. Of course, I appreciate you watching the entire video as well, the replay. We always have such great comments in the comments section. I have some great moderators. Please remember that I have selected them. They are friends, and so they have full authority. If you're a troublemaker, which we have very, very seldom, or a bot, they have full authority to put you in the timeout or whatever they need to do. Just be kind to them. I ask that everybody be kind, polite, and respectful to each other. No arguments or anything like that. We're here to learn. We're here to get through this together. So let me go through and welcome everybody. Laura Mannion, good evening. Good to see you. Moskoka Oma. Thank you, Scott. I saw that you posted Gray Man Prepping, so thank you for that. So Camp Patton Family Compound, Gil was on while his was closing up. So I tried to catch Gil. He is right before us, and I've got that link. It's going to come up. It should be in your feed right now. And that'll be the next one here. We can do that, as a matter of fact, right there. So Gil on Monday evenings is right before I am, from 7 to 8. Unfortunately, every other Monday, I have St. Vincent de Paul. So we meet from 6 to 7:30. So I miss every other one of his, but it's something definitely worth seeing. I greatly appreciate it. Kaylin, I've asked her to put her link up, as well as where she buys her MREs from, at 7 o'clock every Sunday. She does an MRE review that's worth your time. I strongly recommend you check that out as well. Hello, Scott. Thank you for that link. I greatly appreciate it. John Hauk, what a wonderful person. So the county just north of me has a preparedness group, and I attended their meeting this last weekend and met some outstanding people face to face. Great meeting. One guy who I've met before, because I went up there for a ham fest at the Bell County Expo Center and ran into him, and he's called the White Ninja. And he gave a really great class on PACE, and it included a list of all kinds of different things that we need to take into consideration as far as primary, alternate, contingency, and emergency. So just maybe I'll do a video on what the White Ninja presented, because great information. And I'm reading another, I always have like 7 or 8 books going at the same time. This is a great book, by the way. Nobody is Coming to Save You. It's a story about how we let people down in Afghanistan. We spent all that time building up their trust. I watched a video by Sarah Adams on the Sean Ryan show. Sarah Adams is a CIA targeter, and she's talking about how, because of the way we withdrew from Afghanistan, we have lost all the trust of the Afghanis that we spent decades building up. And as a matter of fact, they're passing information to the Israelis, a Muslim passing to a Jew, but they won't give that information to us because they don't trust us anymore, because of the way we left all those people behind that we had used as workers, as informers, and everything else, and let the Taliban basically take over. But one of the things that I highlighted in this book is build trust when the risk is low, and then you can leverage it when the risk is high. So that's what we're doing here. We're building trust. We're building a relationship. We're building a network of people. So get with the networks. Get with your local prepper clubs and build that relationship. Build the trust. Let them see you. Let them know you. You need to know them and what they're capable of. As a matter of fact, we did a review at the meeting of what does each person consider to be their specialty. And so for those of you who have known me for quite a while, other than nuclear stuff, I consider mine ingestion and expelling of food. So bringing food in and getting rid of food. Those are my two. So kind of a potty person. Let me see here. Utah Mike, good evening, good welcome. Always great to see you. see anybody else here? Diana, too. Good evening. Good to see you. Laura, fantastic. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you. Muskoka Oma, same thing. Great to see you as well. Cats and Prepping, good evening. Welcome. Theoxorus, my friend, good to see you. Thank you for being here. Let me see. That should take care of it for right now. Holly Ivans, good evening. Always great to see you as well. Okay, so a couple quick announcements. Number one, remember that Maria, what's her last name? I remember that her patronymic is Alexandrovna, but I forget her last name. Anyhow, she's a spokesperson for the Foreign Affairs Ministry for Russia, has warned all Russians not to visit the United States, to stay away from the United States during the Christmas period. She's also warning other Russians who might be in the United States right now that the United States might not be the best place for a Russian to be because of increased tensions. That's kind of a catalyst in my mind. What they're saying is get all the Russians out of there before we hit it. Now, I personally do not believe that the Russians are going to do a direct attack. What I believe is that ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and other people who would like to see the demise of the United States have come across an open border for the last 4 years, and there's thousands of them here. And I think that they have been armed by the Russians the same way that we have been arming the Ukrainians, and that we're going to see some things by some terrorist activities that are sponsored by Russia, or at least Russia is a co-opter in what's going to be happening. I would not be surprised if it doesn't happen within the next 2 weeks. So I would say make sure your preps are up to date. Get yourself mentally prepared for it. That nothing's unreasonable. Al-Qaeda has a way of always trying to one-up itself from the last attack. So whether that's the attacks on the embassies, whether that's the attack on the USS Cole, the two attacks on the Twin Towers, the New York Trade Center, they're always trying to better something more grandiose, something more. Now, if you read the book Al-Qaeda 2.0, they talk about the fact that they kind of went underground and they were doing all kinds of individualistic type of attacks. For example, the Boston Marathon bombing, the Tsarnaev brothers. But they didn't want to attract too much attention to Al-Qaeda because we had just gotten rid of their boss. We found them and we got retribution. But now they stayed underground long enough to get everything taken care of, and now they're out. I will be totally honest with you. I saw a question here by, I think it was Diana too. Yeah, Diana too. What about the drones? My daughter called from New Jersey, and so they're being told that they are. They're finally being told that they're nuke sniffers. So until I get more information, I don't know. I will tell you that right now I'm tired of hearing about it. And the reason I'm tired of hearing about it is because people are making some speculative statements that can't be backed up. So what happens is, I'll give you a couple of examples. So during the summer, when the National Guard and the reserves and the active duty go to the National Training Center in Camp Irwin, California, now Fort Irwin, California, they build up on boxcars, and then you have all these trains full of equipment going across the country and going to the National Training Center in Camp Irwin, California. And and people will report that war is imminent, martial law is imminent because they've got tanks on train cars. No, they're going to their annual training. If a helicopter flies overhead, a military helicopter, those are pilots. They have to maintain their flight hours in order to maintain their flight status. And flight status means that they get a bonus in their paycheck each month. So they have to do certain flights. I'll give you an example. When I was the operations, the targeting officer for 207th MI Brigade, our MI aviators had to fly from Stuttgart to Rota, Spain once a month and then back. Doesn't mean anything other than the fact that they're getting their flight hours, okay? That has to be done once a month, or it had to be done once a month. So For me, when people say, there's a whole bunch of things going on, it's nothing more than training. I was at Fort Huachuca for quite a while. I know what goes on there. That's where we train all of our guys in the OB-1 Mohawk, the EH-1 or EH-60, and guardrail and various other airborne collection platforms. Yes, they fly. That's their job. Same thing. Somebody saw on flight radar that there were 20 helicopters above Dothan, Alabama. Well, take a look at what's right next to Dothan, Alabama. It's Fort Rucker. Fort Rucker is where we do the helicopter pilot training. So civilians don't look into it deep enough, and they start building things up to be more than they are. So that's one aspect of it is that I don't trust that. The second aspect of it is they're saying that they know for sure the size of the craft. Well, when you look up in the sky and you don't have anything to gauge size against, then all size is irrelevant, because you really don't have anything where you can say that's a small personal drone or that's a large military drone. So unless you have something where you can gauge the size, like it flies by a tree, it flies by a telephone pole, something that you know the size of, and then you can compare the relative size between the object and something of a known size, then everything else is speculation. I've seen two on Facebook that are totally bogus. One of them is a rocket exhaust coming out of what they call a drone, and it's going very slowly across the picture. It kind of reminds me of the Jetsons, but if it has a rocket motor with a rocket exhaust like that, then it's not going to fly that slow. Okay, that's number one. But people believe it's true. The other one is somebody has redone a video of a drone and rocket attack on Ukraine, and then reposted that as being part of this thing that's going on in New York and New Jersey, and people are believing it. I say, look up in the sky. There are interceptor missiles blowing up these things that are coming in, and not only that, but some of them are hitting the ground and blowing up. Believe me, if there were explosions on the ground in the United States as a result of drones or missiles, you would have heard about it by now. So I don't know what to know. I don't know what to think about the drones, because I can't trust any of the information that's coming in. I wish I could give you a better answer than that, but I'm sorry. I'm going to have to wait and see what's going on in order to be a little bit more sure about what's going on. Let me catch up here. Okay. Hello, KP Heathen. Welcome. Good evening. Good to see you, my friend. Okay. So I have picked a book for once we complete this one. We'll have this week, and then next week will be the wrap up for the one we're currently working on. This is the one we'll be working on starting the last Monday of this month. The Ultimate Prepper Pantry Guide. Fantastic book. I realized that I have several of this guy's books. Carlos Mack. He has a real good book on nuclear stuff that's worth having. He also has another book. I like it, but I don't like it. Natural Medicine and Herbal Remedies. That's another one of Carlos's books. It's a fantastic compendium. It's a fantastic dictionary. It's a fantastic encyclopedia of knowledge concerning herbs and medicines and everything else. What I don't like about it is all the drawings are in black and white. So it's not going to help me as far as foraging, as far as looking for the plants in the wild, but it is a fantastic compendium if you already know and identify the plants. So, but this is the book and I'll have a link for it so you can purchase it down in the description. And this is the one we'll start on in 2 weeks. Okay. So let's get into this one. We're finishing up on chapters 10 and 11, and then next week we'll go through the annexes and appendices and things like that. So this is Scott Williams and Scott Finazzo. So chapter 10, Fire and Wildfire. And, this area down here, we had one of the largest wildfires down just east of us here and in Burnett County. And it devastated him. So, that's probably one of the few things that would get me to evacuate my house. I am not of the bug out mind. I am more of the hunker down mind. As a matter of fact, we were talking about wildfires because where we met this last weekend, the house is in an area where it was bounded on one side by U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. And so there needs to be a break of some sort between their wild growth, undergrowth, and everything else, and the housing area. And so they're trying to get some sort of a fire break in between the residences and the Corps of Engineer property. And so, that is very important for them as well. Take a look at what's been happening the last 2 weeks in Malibu, just crazy wildfires. So, what do you have as far as wildfire protection? Imagine that it happens in a post-apocalyptic world where you don't have water pressure. So one of the things I'm looking for is, the U.S. Forest Service, when I was in Boy Scouts, well, actually, right after I graduated from high school, I worked for the U.S. Forest Service and U.S. Geodetic Society for that summer in between high school and college. They have these big, I'm going to say that they're 3.5, 4-gallon cans with a pump handle, and then it has a nozzle, kind of like an extra large insecticide sprayer, but it has a heavy stream of water, so you can use it for firefighting. I want one of those for firefighting here in the house. I do have a fire extinguisher in every room. Make sure you check those on a regular basis. Make sure that they're still full charged. We're going to go through a whole bunch of things you can do for fire protection at your house. But he talks about, fire, and make sure that you keep fuel away from the house. And that includes dead underbrush, especially. Green stuff doesn't burn that well. It has to be pretty hot for it to get it to burn. But any dead stuff, brown stuff, get it away from your house. So becoming fire safety, fire conscious, be aware of the weather and fire conditions in advance. There are cycles when it's more prone to have fires and less prone to have fires. Here in Central Texas, we go through a drought. And during that drought, all the sand accumulates basically on the wires, the power lines. And then when we get a little bit of rain, then all of a sudden it turns it into mud. When that turns into mud, then it conducts that electricity across the arm for the pole, for that pole. We call it a pole top fire. And so then that causes a fire. So quite often the first rain after a prolonged drought is going to cause a lot of fires here in Central Texas because of the fact that it ignites the power poles. Be aware of weather and fire conditions in advance. Look, listen, and smell. Smell is going to be a very good one for you unless you're upwind from it. Do not try to evacuate uphill. That's the worst place to go. Remember, fire goes up. Retreat into the water or a low spot. Hunker down in an area that has the least flammable materials. Shield yourself from the heat. Stay calm. Keep low. Face down to protect your airway. Plan. What are the places? What are the evacuation routes that are going to be most secure and less susceptible to fire, so that you can evacuate your home? If you're caught by fire while driving, stay in your vehicle. It is safer. Don't return home until you're allowed to do so. Mapping your fire escape routes, and he gives a map here so that you can, a grid map, so you can kind of plan your fire escapes. And some of the things he says you need to do in order to make your house fire less prone to burning. Clean your gutters. Create a defensible space. That's that we were talking about with that other house, right, where you have a fire break in between your home and the next home, or between your home and natural areas around you. But you want to create that fire break in between your home and other areas. Find out where the vents and other openings to your home are. A couple other, make sure you have plenty of firefighting tools, shovel, axe, water, chemicals, whatever you need. Okay. And then how to talk to and train your children in fire safety, for those of you who have children in their home. Remember to if your clothing falls on fire, remember to fall and roll. And that's going to be your best way to put that fire out. Do not run. It'll fan the flames, and it'll burn you worse. until the Great Depression, up until the 1930s, the two leading causes of death for women in the United States were number one, burns, and number two, childbirth. So what happens is they had basically the hearth of their fireplace was down around ankle high. So they would bring the coals out of the fireplace to cook on, and they had these long flowing dresses. And so when their dress, that cotton dress, touched the coals, that cotton dress would catch on fire. If they didn't die from the burns themselves, they would die from the ensuing infections. And that was one of the leading causes of death up until around 1930s. So, one of the things that they did, and you can see this in a lot of the older homes, and this is something you need to take into consideration as we plan how we're going to do these activities in a post-apocalyptic world, is the kitchen would quite often be a separate building away from the main structure of the home. Because that way, if the kitchen caught on fire, and that was where you're probably most likely going to have the fire, would be in the kitchen, where the fireplace is, then that building, that structure would burn, but not the home. Now, they did have some smaller fireplaces in the home for warmth, but the big fire was in the kitchen. Okay, so that's the end of that chapter. Let me see where we are as far as chat. Hello, Creative Redundancy. Welcome. Good evening. Good to see you. Yes, as a matter of fact, I got one here a little while ago. Thank you, John. That's a great reminder. Quite often, and this is a little trifold, I'm going to call it. It's a laminated trifold that John's talking about that our grocery store, HEB, has. And it's right there in a magazine stand right as you go up to the cash register. So I'm quite certain that there are a lot of grocery stores do that on a regular basis, where they'll have information like that. It had dinosaurs, foraging, first aid, a couple other pamphlets. Check there. You're going to find some fantastic pamphlets that are available to you that really help a lot. Tuck by V1, good evening. Welcome. Let me see. Just got off the phone with Giorgio Tsoukalos. It's aliens. Okay, I'll accept that. Don't know who he is, but I'll accept that. And so Utah Mike says that wildland fire is what forced him to evacuate. No losses, but with a child, yeah, I can imagine. But with a child, they have a tendency to panic. So yes, that's a full-time job in and of itself. Who said that? Cats and Prepping, great comment. Thank you. Yes, those fire blankets are fantastic. Strongly recommend that you get those. I have not yet bought any, and that's a failure on my part. Cats and Prepping, you can. I will take your suggestion here in the very near future. As a matter of fact, right now I am concerned enough about what's going on internationally. Another 13 or 14 countries joined BRICS today. So it looks like the US dollar is going down rapidly and BRICS is going up. And so, the US dollar is not going to be what it was here very shortly. Be prepared for that. Tammy Harder, good evening. Welcome. Shenanigans, good evening. Welcome. Let me see. True. I would say, Laura, that a fire blanket is probably the best thing to use for those, simply because it's basically a chemical fire, and so the only thing you can do is snuff it. That is, remember, with a fire, there are three things that have to be present in order to have a fire. You have to have fuel, you have to have heat, and you have to have oxygen. So if you remove any one of those three, the fire goes away. What you want to do with the lithium power banks is you want to remove the source of oxygen, because it does have its own source of heat and its own source of fuel. So the only thing you can do is take away the oxygen. And that's going to be your safest thing. And that's a wise thing to do as well, Holly. Okay, chapter 11, civil unrest and accidental and deliberate man-made disasters. Pastor Joe Fox in Viking Preparedness did a fantastic video on this, about 8 minutes, 10 minutes this morning that I watched. And he refers to it as people behaving badly. And I agree with him. You know, we just saw there's some weird stuff going on with mass robberies and beat downs and things like that. Evidently, teenagers. I guess we had another school incident today. People are going crazy. I'm very happy here inside my house. I'm going to stay here. But people are going crazy out there in the world, and we need to stay away from them as much as we can. So civil unrest and accidental man-made disasters. Some of the things to consider. Remember, windy.com is your friend, especially if you live near a chemical plant or a petroleum distillery, anything like that where you're going to have some sort of noxious fumes as a result of a leak or a fire or anything else. You want to know that you are upwind, not downwind from that facility. Same thing with being crosswind to it. Are there any natural gas pipelines near you? Same thing with never mind. I have no idea what I was going to say. Do you live downstream from a hydroelectric dam that has a potential of bursting? One of the things that I thought was kind of funny was the Taiwanese basically laughingly told the Chinese, go ahead and invade anytime you want. We have 2 cruise missiles aimed at the Three Gorges Dam. So if you take a look at the Three Gorges Dam, that holds back the Yangtze River. And so if they if they put a crack in that dam and it floods, there's probably somewhere in the vicinity of 300 million people will drown. So it's something. Just, remember, you don't want to live in a river basin downstream from a dam. Now, we have a dam up there. It's on the San Gabriel. It's on the San Gabriel River up there. And that's where we get our surface drinking water from, is that dam. Stillhouse Hollow up in Bell County is another Corps of Engineer dam, and it's holding back water from the Lampasas River. So if you take a look, there are no natural dams. There are no natural lakes in Texas. Every lake in Texas is man-made. So that means that the vast majority of them are built with dams, and all of those dams are prone to failure. So if you live downstream, downriver from those, be on the lookout. Are you in the flight path of a busy airport? That's something to consider. If an EMP happens and the EMP hits the airplane and it loses control, if you're in that flight path, you could become its new unintended landing spot. Are you by a busy highway, an interstate, or a rail line that takes care of hazardous materials? Be considered about that as well. So, types of terror attacks and likely targets, bombings. So, you've got Sarah Adams, the lady from CIA. She did a really good job of explaining it. And one of the things that Al-Qaeda has learned, and they know how we are as Americans. So they take an oath, basically, to die. They're willing to die for their cause, and that is to reestablish the caliphate. They originally wanted a caliphate to basically model the original caliphate that included possessing Portugal and Israel, southern portion of Italy, up into the Balkans, and they were at the gates of Salzburg, Austria at one time. And so they want to recreate that caliphate. That's one of their desires. But the great Satan is basically the United States. So they also want to get rid of the great Satan. So one of the things that when they take this oath, it's basically a death oath. to die for the caliphate, to die for Allah. And within that, and please remember, we're talking about a very extremist group of people here. We're not saying that all Muslims are this way. We're talking about a very extremist group of people. All religions have their extremists. This is just another one of those where there are some extremists within the religion who want to reestablish the caliphate. And and then they also have the Fedayeen. And the Fedayeen basically dedicate their life to die, to fight to the death is the best way to put it. So they want to take as many people with them as possible. So one of the tactics that they have developed, that Al-Qaeda has developed, is they will set off a bomb. So imagine something like the Boston Marathon happening all over again. So they set off a bomb, then they're going to have pairs of these suicide bombers. So the first bomb goes off. What happens? Everybody rushes in to try to help the people who are injured. So then you have all the first responders, the firefighters, the EMS, the police officers, and everybody else that come in. So that's a perfect time to have a second suicide bomber come in and take care of even more people, because you have this concentration of people who are trying to give help and aid and comfort to the people who have been injured by the first bomb. So that's one of their tactics that they have developed and they have perfected over time. And so, hello, Methane Creator. Welcome. Good evening. Thank you for all your fantastic emails and information. I greatly appreciate them. And so, just be aware of that there are things that they do that are totally different than us. Just a different mindset. And we are to them a great Satan. So they have no compunction whatsoever to allow us to continue to live. So bombs, there's also the opportunity for dirty bombs. Now, the difference between a dirty bomb and a nuke, okay? A dirty bomb is a regular bomb. So imagine the Oklahoma City building, the FBI building in Oklahoma City when it was bombed. That was done with a truckload full of ammonium phosphate, fertilizer basically, that was ignited and blew up. So imagine now you've got that same truck, okay, with that destructive power, but it has been either a whole bunch of radioactive material either stuck inside it or encased around it, so that radioactivity is already there. You're just taking that bomb to disperse that radioactivity over a very small area. And it's usually going to be 1 to 3 blocks in radius, okay? So now you've got all this radioactive material that's going to have a half-life, an unbelievable half-life, and it's just going to be radioactive material out there all that time. So think of it as intentionally blowing up Chernobyl, okay? And when that explodes, all the radioactive fissile material that is in Chernobyl, in one of the power plant's reactors, is then thrown by the explosion all over the surrounding area. That's what a dirty bomb is, okay? In comparison to a nuclear explosion, the nuclear explosion is basically, it's going to come in typically from above, and then it's going to ignite. Then anything that is in contact with the explosion itself, okay, that fireball, becomes radioactive. So it puts out its alpha, beta, gamma rays. They go out, they dissipate. It's good. If it's an airburst, you probably won't have any radioactivity past the first 12 to 24 hours. Okay. What you're looking at is you want the explosive force of that nuclear explosion. Whereas a ground burst, which is going to come in contact with the earth, that's what everybody's worried about, is that might be one of the tactics that's used, is that they use a surface burst, because then the explosion happens on the earth or just slightly above the earth, enough so that fireball comes into contact with the dirt, the buildings, and everything else, irradiates all of that material, then it becomes super hot, it goes up into the air, and as it goes up into the air, the prevailing winds aloft carry it downwind. As it carries downwind, then it cools and it falls back to the earth, which is why they call it fall out. It's falling out of the wind pattern. And so that's the difference between the two. Nukesecrecy.com, okay, or a nuke map. Just do a Google search for Nuke Map Nuke Map by Alex Wellerstein, Wellerstein, and that gives you a basically a model that you can play with, and it uses the prevailing winds for the majority of the time for your location. So do both an air burst and a surface burst, and take a look at the predictive radioactive fallout in case a bomb hits near you. Did I see Sue Me come in? Sue Me, hello, welcome. Oh man, you worked a hard day today. Mondays are usually bad for you though. Okay, so and then organized teams of shooters is another one. Chemical, biological weapons, that's what scares me. The biological agents scare me more than a nuke does. So make sure you have, I used to have them here, I don't anymore. I cleaned up the house, we had neighbors over. But Jace case, there's a link for a Jace case down below with a small discount. Lone wolf attacks or deranged shooter attacks, active shooter attacks, those are crazies as well. How to avoid a riot. So when I had my store in Round Rock, I sold hats. And on the inside, there was a Velcro, and on the outside, there was a Velcro. So I had a pro-Biden patch on the inside and a Trump patch on the outside. And then that person, if they were in a riot, all you have to do is take the hat off, take the patch off the inside, put it on the outside, put it on the inside, take the patch on the outside or inside, put it on the outside. You went from being a Trump supporter to a Biden supporter. Bingo, bango, you're out of the fire for that. And then when you get back on the other side, if that's the direction you're going, you swap it out again. But think about, number one, avoid the areas where you think trouble is going to happen. That's usually going to be in downtown areas, around courthouses, around county buildings, around city buildings, around federal buildings. Stay away from those places. If you stay away from them, you're pretty much taken care of. Keep up with the news. It's tough finding unbiased news. That's my biggest problem. Get out, stay out of the disaster areas. If you think a riot's about to begin, run. Best thing to do. Transportation hubs are another place where they can probably quite often happen. Take a look at the trends. What's going on? Are people really upset? Do they think that they have nothing to lose? Or kind of like the whole thing with Putin. At what point will Putin say that he can't win and without going nuclear? So, that's just something. Basic home security. Take a look at a 4-ring perimeter around your home. So you want to have, you want to build up that perimeter. You want to have surveillance on it. Night vision equipment, if possible. That could be either thermal or night scopes. Consider temporary barricades. Some of the barricades, like I've seen a lot of people talking about caltrops, which are basically that little tetrahedrons with the pointy ends that people step on them. They go, oh, ouch, right? Pierces their foot and all that kinds of stuff. Those are illegal. Okay, I want to make sure you understand. During a non-SHTF environment, they are illegal. Same thing. If you take a board, a 2x4, and you put nails through it, and then you put it on the sill on the inside of your house, so that if anybody breaks the window and tries to climb in, during non-SHTF environment, if a criminal reaches in and puts his hand on those nails, you're liable. Okay, even if you tell them that it's there. So, you want to be cautious in your use of harming materials in a without rule of law environment. Hey, Roaming Prepper Pete, good evening. Good to see you. I don't know why you're always putting out all your fantastic little lives while I'm not on the computer. We've got to find a way to coordinate that, because you put out some good stuff. Would somebody do me? Oh, you can, Pete. I made you a what do you call it? You have. Do me a favor. put your link in there so people can follow you. I would greatly appreciate that. Fortify your home, lock it up, replace your windows, make sure you have thick paned windows, double pane if possible. Build a safe room in your home. Consider getting a watchdog or a guard dog. We talked about this on Saturday. I have 3 Chihuahuas. Noise discipline goes out the window with Chihuahuas. I want people to think I'm dead inside my house so that they don't try to come in or don't want to get me. But my Chihuahuas are going to give it away. They bark at lights. They come in through the window. So they're going to. I wish I had a bigger dog. I'd love to have a standard poodle, but my 3 Chihuahuas, they're going to give me up. Build a personal armory and talk to your neighbors about security and defense. Like I said, and that's the end of that chapter. Like I said, now is the time to establish relationships, to build relationships, to build your team, to find out how and with whom you can coordinate so that you have a good neighborhood. The guy next door's, he passed away. His mother-in-law lived there, his wife, his daughter. Don't know what happened, but he passed away. His wife moved away. So now it's just the grandmother and the granddaughter and all kinds of different other people. I think our brother still lives there with him. He came over one day and asked me if I had 12 gauge. And I said, sure. And so he gave me a box of 12 gauge shells. I gave him in trade. I said, well, do you have a 9mm pistol? He said, yes. So I gave him a box of 9mm ammo. I'm on the losing end of that deal. I know it ahead of time. But what did it do? It established a relationship. Okay. I now know he has a 9mm pistol, but he thinks he got over on me, and he thinks that I'm kind of a giving guy. So now there's a little bit more trust between that. It's okay to give things away in order to establish trust and establish a relationship. As a matter of fact, I did that this weekend. We had a swap meet, and I gave away, a neck knife, some coolers, some ice freezer packs, some bottles that we'd cleaned up. Because I used the 3-liter Coke bottles for flour, rice, beans, all those different kinds of things. I had a whole bunch of extra ones, so I gave those away. Let me see. What else did I give? Oh, I gave away a survival backpack, a pre-made one. And I picked up a 6-meter radio, 50 megahertz. I picked up, what else did I pick up? Oh, all that Zoot, and all the long-term storage soap that I picked up over the weekend. I mean, it's just a great thing. So you're establishing a relationship. You're bartering ahead of time. You're building relationships and building trust. And like I said, people will say, "What is your specialty?" Well, tell them what you want to specialize in or what you do specialize in. That way, you can build up your community and build up your resources and build up the people you can trust in case of an emergency. Let me catch back up here. Pete has my address, the roaming prepper, and if anything happens and he's in this area, then he is invited here. There are a couple others of you who have my address and my phone number who are invited here in case something happens. We've established that relationship, and thank you very much for that. So, we are in this together, and you've got my email address. It's coldwarprepper@outlook.com. So, if you want to establish that relationship, if you want to sit down and talk, let's talk and let's see if we can't. I need people here. I need guards. I need people to collect firewood. I need people to collect water, to process the water. So I'm building my own small community here. So, definitely bring food and bring toilet paper. But we'll find a way to make it work. So I just want us all to get through this together. That's my main thing. Let me see here. So somebody told me, I know who it was, A American. Was he American? No, it was Toolman Tim. T- Another fantastic channel. He's up in Canada. Great guy. He told me, don't have any dead time. Make sure you're always talking, even when you're reading, because that keeps it going. Methane Creator says, always carry ARs across your shoulder. So I am, for a while, I wasn't carrying as much as I had been originally. But believe you me, I am now. I don't carry an AR, but I do carry something else. And one of the things, and we'll get into that's in his appendix in here, he recommends that a Ruger Mini 14 in comparison to an AR platform, same ammunition basically. I would argue that the 223 round for the Mini 14 does not have the same muzzle velocity and pressure as does a 5.56. That it is safer to fire 223 in a Mini in an AR platform than it is to fire 5.56 in a Ruger Mini 14 platform. However, I understand where he's coming from. That if people see you carrying a Ruger Mini 14 in a non-WROL, non-SHTF environment, they don't think of it as being capable like they do an AR platform. Okay, it just doesn't look as threatening. Same capabilities, pretty close to the same cyclic rate of fire, same ammunition, same magazine as far as capacity, but it doesn't have a pistol grip and it's not black. So therefore it's not a quote assault weapon. So, that's one of those things you have to consider. Well, remember that I've got an itch here. Just a second. Remember that 1803 letter from January 1st, 1803, from President Thomas Jefferson to the First Baptist Church of Danbury, Connecticut. And in that letter, that's been misinterpreted by people of today. The Danbury Baptist Church in Connecticut, they felt that they were being persecuted by other religious groups in Danbury, and so they wrote a letter to the president asking the president to come down and protect that Baptist church from persecution by the other religions that surrounded them. And President Jefferson responded and said that there is an inseparable wall between the church and state. So it's not a formal doctrine. It was a personal letter to the First Baptist Church of Danbury, Connecticut, January 1st, 1803. And it says that there's a wall there's a separation between church and state. And so that has been used to say that there is an inseparable wall between church and state. So if you recognize the way that has been interpreted, and LBJ was really big on this, because LBJ, remember, his church did not endorse him for the Senate. And so because they didn't endorse him for his run for the Senate, you have the Johnson Act. And the Johnson Act says that if a church does talk about politics or endorse a candidate in politics, then they lose their tax exempt status. So, we've had some bad characters and misinterpretation of a letter. And unfortunately, what it says is everything's good except for Christianity. And so, yeah, we are being persecuted. But that we talk about that in the Bible. The Bible teaches us that we will be persecuted in the end time. So I'm not sure if you're asking the question about caltrips or just mentioning that, John. But basically, you can make a caltrip by taking a nail and bending it into a V, or like this. You can take another nail and bend it into a V and put the two together like this, and then weld that so that when it's got 4 points, so that when you throw it on the ground, you've got 3 points in contact with the ground and 1 point pointing up. And then and then you sharpen the ends of those so that regardless of how you throw it, you're always going to have one pointy end sticking up. Anybody who steps on it then is going to have a nail through the foot. But that's one thing you can do defensive-wise, just throw them out there. I am opposed to that simply because of children and innocent people. It's kind of like a landmine. They don't discern between good people and bad people. Same thing. When I put out my defensive wires, my tripwires are different from my alarm and defensive wires. My tripwires are going to be about 3 to 6 inches off the ground. And the whole purpose of that is to trip the person so that they make a lot of noise and to delay them as they're coming into the property. My alarm and defensive wires are about 3 to 6 feet off the ground. So that a dog, a cat, a rabbit, any other kinds of low animal coming into the yard is not going to set it off. I don't want them to set it off. I want that to be primarily designed to take care of humans who are coming into the area. So those are some differences in some of the ways that we do things. So the bird repellers, that's a great idea, Methane Creator. I think that would be fantastic. However, they're rather flimsy, in my opinion. I don't think that the little spikes that they have, now there's an awful lot of them, I have to agree there, but I'm not so sure that they are as solid as a caltrip would be. And I'm not sure that they would. Now, I'm going to say this, and I'm going to contradict myself, okay? So please bear with me. I'm not so sure that if you stepped on directly on it, it might do some damage, but and there are so many of them, you'd hope that would happen. I think they come in 3-foot strips, but those are fairly flimsy spikes that they have on those. Not even as big as a wire coat hanger. Now, there's something else that you could bend and make into a caltrip if you wanted to. On the other hand, I was wearing my what are they called? Help me here, Pete, if you're still here. The boots, the low boots where you just pull them on. You don't have to lace them. Well, I forget what those are called. Anyhow, I had 2 pair of those. And I was out. A friend of mine owns a small house manufacturing facility and small house lot facility over close to Dakota racetrack. And I was walking his property with him, and we were taking a look at defensive things that they needed to do. And I stepped on a piece of mesquite. The mesquite went right through the boot and up into my foot. So at the same time, I'm telling you that the bird repeller probably won't do any damage. I would typically tell you that a mesquite branch is not going to do any damage, but it did to me. So there's always exceptions. I don't either, but unfortunately, that's what we have to do. So go ahead and make them. Just don't deploy them until after WROL. There we go. Thank you, Scott. Scott, you do such a good job. Thank you. I greatly, greatly appreciate you. I agree, Utah Mike. That is number one. Have great neighbors. Get to know them. Establish those relationships now. Tell them what you expect of them and what they can expect from you. I asked up until about, maybe a year ago, I want to say right after the invasion of Ukraine, I stopped. I've been asking my neighborhood to get together and coalesce into a group. I've got maybe 3 other families besides ours that's in this little group here for the neighborhood. And I stopped advertising when the war started because I figured World War III would happen. Now is not the time to as we get closer and closer to the time when it's going to happen, all I'm doing is advertising and telling people what I have, and I don't want to do that. So the time for building those relationships has gone. The relationships I have are the ones I'm going to have. Now, I could cultivate a couple that I've started, like my next door neighbor. There's a guy over here. We talk all the time. We've had a couple kind of preliminary discussions about it, but nothing serious. There are a couple other guys, like the group I have here. I think I've told you, we've got 318 series, which is Special Forces. We've got a general practitioner, medical doctor. We've got a maxillofacial surgeon, MD, DDS. We've got 2 RNs. One of them is a urology RN, and the other one is a med surge RN. So she works in the hospital on the med surge floor. We've got an 11 series officer. We've got a commo officer. I've got a nuclear submarine commander. I've got we're going to call him a Navy SEAL, but let's not call him a Navy SEAL. He was like I am. I was what was called a candy striper. So I was assigned to a Special Forces unit, but I am not qualified. I am not Special Forces qualified. I'm barely qualified to shine those guys' boots. Those guys are phenomenal. Well, Andy is the same way to the SEALs. He was support to the SEALs, but he was not a SEAL. Okay. I was support to Special Forces, but not Special Forces. I'm not Ranger qualified. I'm not anything qualified. I mean, I'm barely qualified to clean the mud off those guys' boots. They are super workers. They do a fantastic job. So I don't want to take anything away from that and even claim that I'm worthy to be in that unit. But but we have those guys, and then I've got a plumber, an electrician, a flooring guy. He sells flooring. Another guy who was in the Air Force. I don't know what he did in the Air Force, but he's a credit repair guy here now. And then we have a commo guy, but he's down in Luling, so he's got quite a way to come up here to get up here. So let me see. Roaming Prepper has some corgis, and he shows them on his videos every once in a while. Let me see. Well, something I learned yesterday at the meeting, and so we're going to take care of it. We're going to get it taken care of here, or not yesterday, but Saturday. One of the guys has an indoor, well, not an indoor. He has a container lemon tree that is producing at the end of its first year. And let me show you something. Let me show you what he gave me. This is a 1-year-old lemon tree. So the people who were there got some lemons. And look at this. I mean, this is a 1-year-old tree. That's unbelievable. So I'm going to do a lemon tree and do the same thing he did, put it in a container. And I think it's about a 15-gallon container. And then he had it in his garage to protect it from the frost that we were expecting. But I mean, it's producing fruit at the end of the first year. Oh my gosh, what a great thing. These are you can pick up little things like this as you go to these meetings with other people that are critical, going to be important to your survival in a post-apocalyptic world. Just, if you can pick up one secret every time you come to one of these meetings or every time you talk to somebody else, just think about how knowledgeable and how much better off you're going to be in a post-apocalyptic world. Oh, John, by the way, I don't know, this one here. Do you recognize this one? This is the 303rd. It used to be ASA group at Fort Hood, and now it's the 303rd MI battalion at Fort Hood. So I wore that crest for 6 years. Yes, and I showed it. Watch my pantry haul video for last Saturday, and I show you both of the long-term storage soaps. Now, both of these are bars of soap, and so they're all natural. And one of them's naphtha, and the other one's scotes. I've shown them several times in my haul videos, but you'll see them in this last video. And you just basically take a knife, scrape off a little bit, and you can use it for laundry detergent. You can use it for bath soap, hand soap. There are so many things you can use it for, dishwashing soap. But it's a very versatile soap that you want to have in your preps if possible. You can get them. I get mine when I was buying it before this was given to me. I was buying it at HEB, our local grocery store. I think that's the beginning of developing a relationship. So, yes, I think that's a good thing. All right. Absolutely. Creative redundancy. Absolutely. You're absolutely correct. Yeah, so there were three of us kind of there originally. Texas Redleg, Roaming Prepper, and me. And the three of us kind of coalesced like this, and we're pretty. We I think we're pretty good. I think we're pretty tight. And Roaming Prepper does. He is a can I say chemical engineer, Pete? And so he does a lot of traveling and a lot of work. And as a matter of fact, he does some videos about traveling, how to be a traveling prepper. And so he puts out a lot of good information about things you can and can't do with TSA as far as being a prepper and traveling. So yeah, sue me, unfortunately, and I think according to Canadian Prepper, I think things are even about to get worse, if I'm not mistaken. I think there's a new law goes into effect January 1st. That is what I believe. That's what I've been told, and that's what I understand. Is the 5.56 is okay in an AR platform. It may be a little bit overpowered for a 223 chambered platform like the Mini 14, whereas a 223 is safe inside of the 5.56. I also believe that there's like a 1 or 2 millimeter difference in the neck sizing. I think I heard that. Okay. Is Kill It and Grill It here? Hey, Kill It and Grill It, welcome. Good to see you. I'm sorry I missed that. That you were here. Susan Goulet, Suzanne Goulet, welcome. Good to see you as well. Oh yeah, John. So one of the guys at the meeting Saturday has an electric BB gun. Basically, it's a machine gun, and the battery is in the butt plate, and then the magazine loads with the BBs just like it was a normal magazine for a rifle. And you pull the trigger, and that thing, yeah, I mean, it spits BBs. So it's a BB machine gun, and there's no license required for it. So I thought that was great. Thank you for that reminder, John. That was a great demonstration on that, or a great show on that. Let me see. Let's see. Mossberg has a 5.56 chambered bolt action that uses AR mag. Wow. Okay. That is fantastic news. Now, I have a Gunsight Scout, and that's a Ruger. Now it's my Gunsight Scout is chambered in 308. It's my pig rifle, so it's what I use to hunt pigs. And I have a night scope on it, but it's a carbine. It's not a full length It's not a full length rifle. My hunting rifle for a little bit longer distances than pigs is a Remington 700, also chambered in 308. And then I have a Centerfire Contender. Oh no, Centerfire. What the heck's the name of the company? I can't remember the name of the company, but it's chambered in 6.5 Creedmoor. So my two primary hunting rifle. Well, no, I got to go back. I have a 30-30 too. So my primary hunting rifles are 6.5 Creedmoor, 308, and 30-30. And all three of those are bolt action. But the Gunsight Scout does take a magazine, and the 6.5 Creedmoor is an internal. You're going to use a clip. Same thing with the the 30-30 is tube fed. So, and mine's a Marlin. I'm kind of partial. I prefer having the side loading instead of the end loading, like on the Winchester or on the Henry. So I don't want to have to reach out there and take the tube, the compressor rod out and load it from the end and then put the compressor rod back in. I don't like the Winchester because it ejects out the top. And when it ejects out the top, you can't put a scope or anything on it. So the Henry ejects out the side, which is better, But remember, it's got that end load. So the reason I like the Marlin is because the Marlin has side loading, side ejecting. So that way I can have a scope on it. I don't have to worry about anything. I don't have to worry about, if I run out of ammo, all I have to do is take some and throw them in the side. Okay. But that's the reason I prefer the Marlin 30-30 over the Henry and over the Winchester. Yeah, people. I think the thing here is to remember 1969. Paul Simon put out a song called "The Boxer," and the last two lines of the very first stanza apply to what you're talking about, Tuck by V1. And it says, "Man hears what he wants to hear and disregards the rest." So as long as there's a quote, as long as there's something, even if it's taken out of context, that supports your position, people have a tendency to gravitate towards that because it supports their position. We see that a lot in the Bible as well. We'll see people quote one verse, but they disregard the verse in front and the verse behind, and they take that verse totally out of context. And and then they'll build an entire theology around that one verse. It's unbelievable. I have a feeling you're talking about a tread, something to walk on, to a damaging type of a what do we call it? Booby trap. There we go. Yeah, and I wholeheartedly agree. That's why I don't want it. I will use it further out, but I'm not going to use it close in. Now, here's another thing to remember as you're building a defense for your home. Anything that is cover for you is going to be cover for the enemy at some point. Okay, so I established, let's say, a firing position, a dugout firing position, 100 yards out. Okay, if I have to evacuate that dugout firing position and retreat back to my house, I have just given a dugout firing position to the opposition for them to use against me. Okay, so anytime you have any kind of a cover or concealment that you're using for your side, make sure you have a way to destroy it or to booby trap it or do something to it, because if you have to evacuate it, it then provides the same benefit to the opposing force that you expected it to provide to you. Let me see. So they're called tetsubishi in Japanese. Caltrops are niche items, but when used properly, do work. Even if they don't penetrate shoes, they stick in them and become trip. Absolutely. You're absolutely correct. Yeah, and same thing. So your deer problem is my coyote problem. So that's why I want that wire up a little bit higher. So, maybe the wire trip mechanisms aren't going to work for you in your environment as they are in mine. I have several neighbors that way, Muskoka, Oma. So that's kind of why I want to play dead for a couple of weeks after it happens, so that nobody knows what's going on. Okay, let me see here. Thank you all for your being such. There we go. Who said that? Suzanne Goulet. Thank you. That's it. That's what I show in the in my haul video Saturday. So methane creators supporting what I learned this weekend. So evidently, this is something great to have as far as a citric type of fruit. That thank you. Methane creator, you're a second source, so I always like to have confirmation. But I guess that's going to kind of be the way to go as far as a fruit tree. Thank you for supporting that. Yeah, it's very cheap compared to a lot of the others. I have a lot of filler, so and it's all great. Uh, and I think we're talking rounds here, right, John? Oh, so I don't know if you know it or not, but there are anti-drone rounds that you can buy. I bought some at a gun show for 12 gauge, and it's basically 4 balls that are in the shell along with the net. And I think the net is maybe 12 by 12. So you got one ball that when it gets out of the barrel, it expands, and you've got these 4 balls with a 12 by 12 net. And so basically it entangles one of the rotors on a drone. So it's a drone defense round. Expensive. 3 of them cost me 3 rounds, 1 box of 3 cost me $25. So it's quite expensive. Not too sure I can afford too many of those. Tammy Harder says that Zote's a good soap to have. I found it at Walmart. You can wash your clothes, but also it has citronella in it, so you can repel mosquito. I forgot about the citronella. Thank you for that. Oh, by the way, if anybody knows somebody who is really knowledgeable on either homeopathic medicine, and that being herbs, tinctures, and things like that, or in essential oils, or in foraging, I would really love to get them on and do an interview. I think that here in the near future, and Sumi and I have had a lot of conversations about this. Normal medicines in a post-apocalyptic world are going to be non-existent almost. So make sure you stock up on what you need now, and be careful about expiration dates and everything. But at the same time, start studying about alternative sources for those medications so that you don't become one of that 90% that Jonathan Hollerman talks about that are going to pass away within the first year after SHTF. So, he says he told Congress that he believes 90% of the population will die after an EMP attack within the first year because of their dependence upon medication, electrical medical devices, etc. And so Sumi is a nurse, and she and I have had several conversations about this. She's helping me with a little bit of my essential oils. For example, she makes her own 5 Thieves 5 oil blend. Now, this is the blend that supposedly these were grave robbers in Paris during the Black Plague, and they made this essential oil, 5 different essential oils, combined them into one. They call it Thieves, and that protected them from catching bubonic plague at that time. So there is some evidence that it may be effective. So I bought some because what I do, I'm one of the things I consider myself kind of good at for a post-apocalyptic value is candle making. And so what I want to do is I want to put a couple drops of Thieves into the candles I make. And that way I'm dissipating that Thieves oil throughout the house by having it in the odor, the scent, the dissipation of the gases from that candle flame. So that's something that I want to talk to somebody who knows and have them on the channel who knows an awful lot about essential oils. I thought, John, I was wrong. I have to tell everybody, I was wrong. I thought that the hunting calibers, because of the number of hunters in the U.S., that during COVID, that there would be plenty of hunting calibers. I missed a hunting season because I could not find 30-30 anywhere. I could not find 308 anywhere. I could find 762, but I could 762.51. Could not find 308. I didn't have the 6.5 at that time, but those calibers were not to be found. All the military calibers were available if you could find those. Of course, the one that was in greatest abundance was the 22 long rifle. But yeah, I was totally. I guess that one totally wrong. I was exact opposite of reality when I made my prediction. So don't depend on my predictions for anything. Oh, great. I hope you got them. Okay, so basically, 12 penny nails driven through a 2x6 lumber will wreck off-road tires. Yep, and that's what you want to do. You want those kinds of defenses. Okay, I think we're getting close. Oh gosh, we're a quarter hour over. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I guess we need to bring it to a conclusion here. So next week at the same time, we're going to get together, and this will be. No, let's not. It's next week. Today is the 16th. That'd be the 23rd. Isn't that the day before Christmas? Isn't that Christmas Eve? No, okay. Christmas is on Wednesday. So 23rd. Next week, we'll wrap this book up. And then the following week on the 30th, which is the day before New Year's Eve, we'll start the new book, okay? So thank you all for being here this evening. Thank you for your fantastic way that you do in the chat. I greatly appreciate that. I really love the way you cooperate with each other, respect each other. We're going to go to Book of Numbers, chapter 6, verses 24, 25, 26. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord let his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord look upon you kindly and give you peace. Do me a favor, share this. There are other people who need to know it. You can use it as a way to introduce yourself to some people you might think would be good at prepping and say, hey, I found this interesting. What do you think about it? Just have them view it, have a discussion over it, see what they think about it, ask them say, do you think this guy's full of poo-poo or not? And you can kind of get the conversation going that way. So remember that we're all in this together so we can come out the other side together. Thank you. I really appreciate you being kind, polite, and respectful to each other because togetherness is the key. For those of you who are in the area, my call signs are, they're over here. On ham, I am KJ5 HEF, and on GMRS, I am WSED 742. So please connect either way. On GMRS, on ham, I monitor the Round Rock repeater number 1, and on GMRS, I monitor channel 19. Thank you, everybody. Have a great evening. See you same time, 8 o'clock next Monday. Have a very blessed week. Take care. Bye-bye.